I don't have to tell you what the most important tool in the kitchen is. I think we'd all agree that it's the knife that you use, and keeping it sharp and well maintained is paramount to your success in the kitchen. Hard to argue that, but what doesn't get talked about enough, I feel like, is the length of knife that you use. There is of course much to consider when purchasing your first knife, but in my experience, using something in the longer range, 240 millimeters or around 10 inches, is going to be a game changer whether you're a professional or a home cook. There are tons of knives to choose from, made in all parts of the world, but we here at Sharp believe the best knives come from Japan. And the Japanese equivalent to a Western style chef's knife is called a Gyuto. It was originally developed for cow butchery, hence the name Gyuto, which translates to cow sword, but has recently been adopted by Western chefs as their go-to chef's knife. They're going to range anywhere from 180 millimeters up to 270 millimeters, but we at Sharp believe the 240 millimeter Gyuto is the sweet spot between versatility and manageability. You'll also find a knife of this length is going to make easy work of large, hard root vegetables, and a longer knife is going to stay sharp for longer. It's for these three reasons that, again, we believe the 240 millimeter Gyuto is the only knife that you need, and one that we highly recommend you consider if you are a pro or a home cook. A Gyuto is without a doubt the most versatile shape out there. And of course, the longer the knife is, the more you can do with it. It also saves you time because you don't have to think about what knife you're going to use for the specific task that comes at you next. Whether you're doing something large or something small or something in between, the Gyuto can do it. The long blade is going to allow you to make longer strokes as you're cutting through those larger vegetables. It's also going to help you with slicing. And then of course that taller blade is going to help you when your ingredients stand taller off the board, giving you a little bit more comfort and control when working with such ingredients. We will concede of course that a longer knife is going to be more difficult to use, but with a little bit of practice, you're going to be shredding garlic and shallots in no time, and any of those tasks between small and large that come up are easily handled with this 240. This edge geometry will also have a big impact on the perceived sharpness of our knife and will slightly impact the edge retention of the knife. In my intro, I told you that a longer knife stays sharp for longer. I lied to you, kind of. The inch of steel on a 6-inch knife is going to dull just as fast as an inch of steel on a 10-inch knife. However, when you're using your knife, you're probably not using the full length of your knife. And for each different task that you encounter, you're probably not using the same part of your blade. If you have a longer knife in the 10-inch range, you can spread out the use for all these different tasks between different parts of your knife, and this is going to help it stay sharp for longer. The edge geometry, of course, is super important for the awesomeness of our knife, and a knife that is longer and taller is going to have much better edge cutting geometry. This is, of course, because the taller blade is going to be thinner behind the edge, which is going to allow the knife to move through ingredients much easier, even if the cutting edge of our knife isn't that sharp. That's why when you have a brand new knife, it cuts like a dream. It's the best thing ever. And then that same knife 2 years later makes you want to throw it in the garbage if you haven't thinned it out. This is because every time we sharpen our knife, which is an inevitability for any knife, we are removing steel from the knife. Every time we remove steel from our knife, we are impacting the edge geometry of that knife. Jake's going to throw up a handy dandy little graphic here for us to reference, just illustrating that point. As we remove material, our edge geometry is going to get thicker and thicker and thicker, and that knife is going to have a harder and harder time getting through harder ingredients. So a tall, nice long Gyuto like this, again with that nice tall blade, means every time we sharpen our knife, we are still impacting the edge geometry, but at a lesser degree than if we were sharpening something shorter. So this of course leads to our knife performing better over a longer period of time, which is going to perfectly roll into our next point, which is that it will in fact save you money to go with a larger knife. Now, if our knife stays sharp for longer, it's more capable and versatile and performs better when cutting harder vegetables, there's no need for any other. I know I'm going to get roasted in the comment section down below. You can't tell me not to buy more knives. But once mastered, a 240mm Gyuto can do it all. This knife excels at larger vegetables and larger slicing tasks, and with some practice, you'll easily be able to brunoise the smallest of vegetables. Now this knife won't stay sharp for longer per se, but you have more blade to work with, allowing you to spread out your usage between different parts of the blade, and harder vegetables like sweet potato will fall apart at the very sight of a 240mm Gyuto. So it's plain to see that this is the only knife that you really need. Whether or not you're able to contain yourself and keep yourself from buying more knives is up to you. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you liked this video, make sure to slice the like button, hit subscribe for more knife-related content, and until the next video, stay sharp.